Alrighty, so we got a ton of news to talk about because obviously we didn't do a news of the week episode on Saturday because I was out of town. So as a result, obviously there's definitely going to be even more news to talk about, and hopefully this video won't be like 40 or even 50 plus minutes long. But let us begin by talking about the first news, and we start off with Inter Miami. So there is a bit of a surprising change in terms of the front office and a little bit of a shakeup that they made in the last couple of days. And one of the shakeup is who is the new sporting director and the new person that is in charge in terms of decision making with the roster for this Inter Miami team. And they decided to name Guillermo Hoyos as the new sporting director, even though I know they didn't say it's his name as the sporting director, but with the way that he's basically making decision with a roster, that's pretty much what sporting director does. Now, this is not a big surprise because he's been labeled as the godfather of Messi, and with Inter Miami, it's basically Messi and friends, and the way that Messi definitely has a lot to say with this team, which in theory, it could be good and bad. I think it could be good in terms of the short term because obviously there's no doubt that Inter Miami will bend over backwards in terms of trying to give into Messi demand, and as long as they, of course, are winning with Messi, I don't think a lot of fans or even some of the fair weather fans of this team is not going to complain about how this team would do for the rest of the season. But there are definitely some concern when it comes to this hiring, especially with the way that I wonder how Inter Miami is going to look like once Messi does eventually retire and decided to move away, and that could be as soon as next season as well. I think he does have an option to 2026, but there could be a case that this could be the last year we might see Messi being with Inter Miami. And I'm also interested to see how the league handle as well, because with all the Messi hype that's been going around, well, it's definitely got a lot of global attention and it's really put MLS on the map. There have been some that have said that MLS hasn't really done a good job in terms of capitalizing, and in some way, they're kind of maybe over capitalizing in a way where there's a reason why a lot of the fan base around MLS and just kind of the general public of MLS are kind of getting frustrated of how oversaturated in terms of the Messi hype has been. And going back to Inter Miami, once Messi does leave this team and once his friends leave this team, there is definitely a sign that a lot of the people that is currently with this team is going to exit with this team as well, and there could be a mass exodus in terms of change of front office or even the change of head coach as well, because I really don't think that Javier Mascherano might be there in long term, especially with the way that once Messi and friends leave. I mean, unless if he has shown the ability to rebuild this team and continue to find success that this Inter Miami team had under Messi and friend. I mean, again, it's a very interesting direction, and it's almost a big gamble as well. And considering they already had some good sporting director in before with Chris Henderson, I think them parting ways with Chris Henderson and letting him walk to go to Atlanta United, I think that could be a mistake that they could come and pay dearly, especially near the end of the Messi hype, mainly because again, he was a guy that a lot of the signings that he's done were very good signing as well to support Messi and also the superstar on this team. But now with him not being there and this team just solely focused on Messi and maybe signing a couple more of his former teammate as well. Once those players does left, I mean, it could be a very hollow shell of a team that this Inter Miami team has, and there could be a lot of concerns that once they leave, this team could easily get themselves back to being a team near the being a bottom feeder as they were for the first couple of years when they came into the league. I mean, remember the time when Inter Miami was a struggling team before Messi arrived? And when I say struggling, yes, I do know that they did make the playoffs in their first season, sort of in the play-in round, and then they did make the playoffs with Phil Neville finishing sixth place. But overall, this team was a very highly volatile team, and for most part, this team was a pretty bad team before the Messi hype really took over this team and made this team a record-breaking team in terms of points total, as we saw last season in the regular season. Now, moving on in terms of talk about some signings. So we start off with Austin FC. They made another big signing because that's what Los Verdes are doing this offseason. I mean, they are definitely cooking in terms of all the offseason signing, and they probably took it personally in terms of them not playing very well last season, finishing poorly last year by signing Murto Uzzini on a club record transfer fee. Now, apparently, he is a number nine. He can also play in the winger position as well, which is kind of an odd signing considering they already had Brandon Vasquez. And unless if Nico Estevez decided to play a two striker system, I guess he maybe used more on the wing area. But either way, I thought when I heard this signing, this was maybe the replacement for Dre UC, and maybe this could be the replacement for Dre UC, or it could just simply means that Austin maybe don't really need to have a reliable number 10, and this goes back to what I also talked about Austin FC in terms of who is going to be that playmaker. Maybe this is finally the year where Danny Pereira is going to step up and be that playmaker for this team. But either way, Austin has made a lot of improvement this offseason from top to bottom. But again, it'll be interesting to see whether if it will turn well, because again, with all these signings that Austin has made, it's great and all, but we've seen some big signings that Austin has made in the past, and yeah, most of them has turned out to be more of a flop than actually turns out to be well. But it's great to see that Los Verdes has been very ambitious, and again, they probably hear the noise that they're not going to do very well this season, and not really making the signings that they should have done last season, and they took it personally by making all these big signings and really model this team heading into this year. Now, the Seattle Sounders, they have re-signed Kim Key. So remember him? He was a guy that joined this team a couple of years ago, and a bit of a throwback as well. Now, obviously, unlike when he was a regular starter for Kim Key, wasn't he also in the back line with Marshall as well? Yeah, that's a name you probably haven't heard me saying in a long time. But yeah, even though I don't think he's going to be a regular starter for this team, it's a good nostalgia kind of signing, and a guy that he has won a couple of championship during time in South Korea, and I think he's probably just kind of returning to Seattle, saying, hey, maybe I might have a chance to win a MLS Cup and especially be competitive. Even though I'm gonna probably not gonna be playing a bigger role as I did in my first tenure with the Sounders. Now, CF Montreal, they have acquired two players in the last couple of days. They first acquired Ukrainian midfielder Hanidi Sinchuk, and then they also acquired Canadian midfielder Victor Lattori from Ross County. Now, I have a feeling both of these guys are probably just going to be depth pieces. Consider both of these guys are relatively young, and that they're probably just used for depth. But I'm never gonna complain when teams decide to go depth pieces, especially guys that are coming into this league relatively young, and see whether they can do well and maybe even get themselves playing into the starting 11. Speaking of young players, the Vancouver Whitecaps have signed for Jaden Nelson from Rosenborg. So I remember Jaden Nelson when he was with Toronto FC. He was okay during his time with TFC. Obviously, he made that jump to Europe with Rosenborg. Didn't really quite worked out too well, and now he's going to be going back to another Canadian team. It just kind of feels like when it comes to some of these misfits kind of Canadian players that used to play for a Canadian team, they just go to another Canadian team. That is, I mean, the Whitecaps have signed their fair share amount of former TFC player, and the same goes for Montreal as well. And yeah, we'll see how Jaden Nelson will do with Vancouver. There's no doubt that he's not going to get some starting minutes unless they decide to go with a two striker system, because that number nine position will always be Brian White's spot, and probably Jaden Nelson is just going to be almost used as a backup role in this case. And then the New England Revolution, they have acquired Israeli defender Eli Fingold, and they acquired him from Maccabi Haifa. I think that's how you say that club. But either way, it's another Israeli player. And again, when it comes to players that come from the Israeli Premier League, there's some very good hidden gems in that league. I mean, not a lot of people talk about how there's a lot of good players that come from that league, and especially Israeli player as well, that turns out to be very well. I mean, and a great example of that is Ty Baribo last season, of how well he did. And knowing New England desperately needs some defensive help heading into this season, we'll see whether or not if this will be the move to do so, and solidify this back line heading into this upcoming season for surprisingly Caleb Porter's second season. I say surprisingly because again, it's hard to believe he's still as as the head coach of this team, consider there was multiple threat that looked like the writing was on the wall last season after a disastrous first season he has with the Rams. Now, the LA Galaxy, they have acquired Louisville City midfielder Elijah Winter. Now, it's not very often you see a team decided to go to the USL Championship and get a player there to come to MLS, but this is an example of that. And, there are some hidden gems in the USL Championship as well, though most of the time, a lot of these USL Championship players, when they come to MLS, it's mostly for depth reason. And I think this is an example of that as well. Although I thought Elijah Winder, he did really well last season with Louisville City, and from what Louisville City fans have said, they are going to really sorely miss him in that midfield. He brings a lot of energy to this team, which is what the Galaxy would definitely need, especially with how Greg Vanny sets up. But yeah, he's going to be a good depth piece for this team. Maybe a regular starter as well. I would say this is kind of like the Gaston Brookman replacement after they decided to sell Brookman to Nashville SC. Now, the Chicago Fire, they have transferred Federico Navarro to Rosario, or not Rosario, Rosero Central, that is. And yeah, Federico Navarro, we knew that from the beginning when he came to Chicago. I mean, I was always skeptical about this signing when he came there. And while he has definitely performed a little bit better than I thought he would be, I just think that he's not a high end starter for this Fire team, and at least they get some money out of that deal. And also, this is another signing that is part of the old regime. I mean, I'm pretty sure Greg Berhalter is trying to get rid of as much dead weight and as much of the old regime signings that turns out to not worked out for this team as much as possible. And this is another example of that. Now, moving on in terms of talk about transfer rumors. So Atlanta United was very active in terms of the transfer rumor in the last couple of days because why why wouldn't they? I mean, this is the five stripe. They're always very bad, or they're always very active when it comes to transfer. And obviously, they are really gunning for that number nine spot right now because they are looking to bid $18 million for Benfica for offer Cabral, and they also are still looking to try to get Lati Laugh from Middlesbrough, even though that deal. It's hard to believe that that was a move that it was rumored a couple of weeks ago, and it was rumored to be very close to being done, and yet to this day we still haven't seen it being done. It feels like there's still some problem when it comes to that signing of Lati Laugh. But either way, this should be very interesting to see. I doubt that Atlanta is probably going to land both of these players because both of these players pretty much play in similar position as well. I guess maybe they want to have these link in terms of these two players mainly because they're kind of almost pressuring one of the club to really complete the signing. I mean, I think with them linking Arthur Cabral, I think this is just almost a power move to Middlesbrough to get this Lati Laugh deal done. Otherwise, if this deal does not done, this is pretty much the backup plan of them getting a guy in Arthur Cabral who he didn't really turn out well compared to what we saw a couple of years ago when this was a guy that was linked with Barcelona, and it looks like Barcelona was going to sign him. Didn't quite work out. He was now playing in Benfica. It didn't really quite work out with Benfica as well. But that being said, well, the last time when we saw a big money move from Benfica, that guy is Pedro Musa. He turns out to be very well for FC Dallas, albeit it took a while for that to happen. But yeah, there's no doubt that again, Atlanta, the number nine position is the top priority right now, and they're trying every way to get that number nine done before the season begin. And not to mention, they're going to shell out a lot of money in order to do this. Some record transfer amount of money to get that DP number nine that they desperately need heading into this season. And then there's a report suggesting that Estudiante has agreed a deal for Lucho Acosta, and this also happened at the same time when FC Cincinnati is already in talk to replace Lucho Acosta by getting Evander from the Portland Timbers. So this is definitely very spicy kind of transfer rumors that we're hearing. And considering that, I thought Lucho Acosta was going to stay with Cincinnati after he finally report to preseason training. Now it seems like maybe he's not really even happy the fact that he's been reported to preseason training. It feels like he is still on the meter of wanting out of Cincinnati. And again, this has been a thing that we've heard about ever since when Cincinnati got eliminated by NYCFC, that he's not very happy with the where he is right now. He wants to to make a move. And the same goes with Evander as well. He hasn't been happy with the Portland Timbers as well, and it seems like he's going to be shipped off to somewhere else as well. But imagine going from losing to Lucho Acosta and then getting Evander. I mean, that's not really a bad trade off. That is, if Evander can continue the good form that he had in the second half of the season and not look like the guy near the end of the season, which yeah, that version of Evander was pretty rough. And I think that version was mainly because he was just not happy playing for the Portland Timbers and his his just kind of how do you say it? He wasn't really trying it as hard as he should be, and that can happen when a player is not happy with a club that they're in. They're probably not going to their intensity is gonna definitely drop, and we definitely saw a lot of that at near the end of the season when Evander, who went from just playing the MVP level kind of player in the middle of the season to really just fall off the map for the Timbers in the last couple of games. Now, Estudiante and Vélez Sarsfield, or Vélez Sarsfield, that is actually reported to link with Quake's number 10, Hernan Lopez. Now, apparently, from what I heard, the rumor fee is around like $8 to $11 million. That is a lot of money for the Quakes to not turn down in terms of taking that offer for Hernan Lopez. Now, that being said, I do feel like the Quakes, as much as that's a lot of money, I think they would be better off if they just keep Hernan Lopez there. Consider, when you talk about this Quakes team, and since Bruce Arena decided to take half of the New England Revolution with him, and kind of make a comparison to what Hernan Lopez is if this was the New England Revolution with Bruce Arena, he's pretty much like the Carlos Hill type player on this team. Now, does he get to that level that Carlos Hill has with Hernan Lopez? I don't know. I think he could, considering that they finally started to get some talented player within the roster, which is something that Hernan Lopez didn't get last season. But yeah, there's no doubt that again the fee is definitely a lot. It's very hard for the Quakes to not turn it down. But ultimately, I think the smart move here is just simply keep hold of Hernan Lopez. If he turns out to do well, you can probably get even a bigger offer for that. The amount that the Quakes are getting right now. Now, the New York Red Bulls, their report to sign Raheem Edwards, and this is a signing that is pretty much almost done. It's a matter of time before the Red Bulls announce that Raheem Edwards have joined the team, and Raheem Edwards has become a bit of a castaway in the last couple of years. He's been joining multiple team that is, and times even joining some good team as well. And he's a guy that he's a very speedy kind of left back. The problem with his game is always going to be in the final third that is. But overall, he's a good option off of free agency, and the Red Bulls are looking to trying to take a chance in that, especially with the way that they lost John Tolkien recently. You would expect maybe this could be the replacement to do so, even though it's not really a like replacement. And it's if this is the replacement for John Tolkien, they probably could have done much better than that. Now, Sporting KC also have been busy when it comes to making some transfer rumor news. So they made an offer for RB Leipzig center back Brian Oka, and that's how you pronounce it. Now he is a guy that actually is born in the U.S. and played a full time in Europe as well. And knowing Sporting KC needs some defensive help, this move definitely makes sense. That they hope that he turns out to do well. And they're also looking to try to get some attacking pieces as well, starting off with them potentially getting Spanish attacking midfielder Manu Garcia and Russian winger Shepi Suleimanu from Aries as well. And there's no doubt that Sporting KC again they need a number 10, and if they get Manu Garcia, it is reported that he is going to be a DP player. I think the transfer fee is around $5 million. And then also getting this Russian winger, Lumanov, he's pretty much going to be the replacement for Johnny Russell, who I think Johnny Russell is still with the this Sporting KC team, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they declined his option, but there's no doubt that he is definitely getting older, and that I might be completely wrong on this. He might actually have no longer with this team, but he's gonna be the replacement for that, and that no pressure in terms of replacing the quality that Johnny Russell have shown for this Sporting KC side year in and year out. And then going back to FC Cincinnati, because again, they've also been very busy in terms of the transfer talk. They're also finalizing a deal to sign Danish left back Lucas Ingo from Middlesbrough on loan. What is it with Middlesbrough this offseason? It feels like every team are trying to raid Middlesbrough in terms of getting players. I mean, it all started with Matthew Hoppy, and now it's just gone crazy with pretty much half of the league decided to get Middlesbrough players. I'm kidding on that. Obviously, that's a little bit of an over-exaggeration, but it just feels like Middlesbrough has been mentioned so many times throughout this offseason when it comes to transfer rumors. Cincinnati also is in advanced talk to sign Paraguay international center back Gilberto Flores from Liverpool. Now, most likely, both of those players are going to be depth pieces. Maybe Lucas Ingo could be on a borderline as a starter as well. But either way, as I mentioned with Cincinnati in the season preview, they need some depth in terms of the defense and some quality depth as well in the defense, and also maybe even elsewhere as well, because that's kind of one of the things that's lacking for this team. With how talented that this team has when it comes to their high end talent, when it comes to the depth, that's when it started to be a little bit of a drop off. Actually, a little bit of a drop off is an understatement. It's a pretty big drop off when you compare it to some of the star players that they currently have heading into the season. And then Minnesota United is also report to sign Korean midfielder Ho Young Dun from Gwangju FC. And this again, it feels like Minnesota has kind of started to become the Korean national team as well, and that's the South Korean national team that is, because they've been linked with a couple of Korean player, and this is another guy that they've been linked to get, and it seems like it's pretty close to do so as well. Now, there's no doubt that I think this is kind of the number six that they're looking for, because the position that you play fits that role as well. Now, theoretically, I would wish that this team would have got a DP number six instead of getting a guy that is considered to be a U22 initiative number six. That is, though, from what I heard, he was voted as the Korean Young Player of the Year before, so he could be a good talent coming into this league as well. Though there's not a lot of South Koreans that have come into this league and found some good success as well. I think the only guy that I can know of is guys like Kim Ki for a bit with the Sounders, and even Hon In Bom with the Vancouver Whitecaps a couple years ago. But we'll see whether or not if this is going to be the deep key number six, or in this case, the number six signing that this Minnesota team has been desperately looking for it to do so. And if he actually turns out to do well, then yeah, that will really help this team to not now be potentially a contender in the Western Conference as well. I mean, this team is not that far off, I think, in my opinion, to being a contender. If they can just get that number six role correct, which is not easy to say, they could be a contender in the Western Conference and could really go at the big boys like the two LA team and even the Seattle Sounders. And then the Columbus Crew, they are not selling Christian Ramirez, despite the fact that there's rumor that it seems like Ramirez might be moving on from the Crew. Though there is one thing to note, that his contract does end at the end of the season, and this is where it gets tricky if you're Columbus, because he is 34 now. Usually, when it comes to striker, they kind of fall off around this age, or maybe even a couple years ago. But Christian Ramirez seems like he's kind of one of those late bloomer, and he's just gets better as the age go. And now there's a big decision that Columbus will have to make at the end of the season, because you don't want to let him for out for free. There's going to be a ton of team that is looking to try to get so. In fact, I would definitely won't mind to see Minnesota decide to bring back Christian Ramirez. I mean, I know they have Kelvin Yoboa in that spot, but getting a guy like Christian Ramirez as a backup, and not to mention a great reunion in story as well at the end of the season, I wouldn't mind that to be the case. But if Columbus decided not renew his contract and think that maybe he doesn't have too much left to offer, there's going to be a lot of teams that I think could be in for him, because again, he's a bit of a late bloomer. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Wando, where Wando, we know how much he was a late bloomer as well, and just gets better as the age goes along. And there's no doubt that Columbus is going to try their best to keep him at least this season. I think they will keep him, but heading into next season, whether they decide to renew his contract, that will be interesting to see whether if that is the case. Speaking of number nine, so the New York Red Bulls is interested to sign Timo Werner from Tottenham, and this is not a big surprise because again, it feels like the Red Bulls knowing that they're basically trying to sign any players that used to play for their other sister club like RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg. They're gonna obviously have a a, a link in that, and Timo Werner, of course, played for RB Leipzig for a long time. Did very well with RB Leipzig as well. Not so much doing his time with Tottenham. In fact, doing his time in the Premier League with Chelsea as well, not very successful whatsoever. He's a guy that is a very speedy player as well, but he's also a guy that is very frustrating when it comes to putting the ball into the back of net. Sounds like a very similar comparison to Ilias Manuel is in it for the Red Bulls. But we'll see whether this the move the will complete. Probably not. I think again, if they are going to sign him, we'll see what kind of contract that is going to be. And keep in mind they are already signed Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting as well. I think if they're going to look to get Timo Werner, it's probably not going to be this off season. It's probably going to be the next off season once they ride out with Choupo-Moting. And once he's no longer considered to be top quality, and maybe they'll go for Timo Werner from Tottenham or even any club that is going to sign Timo Werner. Consider I don't think he's going to be with Tottenham for very long. Considering he hasn't had a lot of success this season with the Spurs. Now, Hassani Dotson, he actually has requested a trade from Minnesota United, and this is not a big surprise. I mean, it's sad to see that Hassani Dotson could potentially be sold off from somewhere else, and that he's obviously not happy with the club that he's currently in, and mainly because after they decided to sign potentially not just this guy Ho Yun Jung. I know Minnesota is also linked with another midfielder as well coming out of France. I'm pretty sure Hassani Dotson is not happy to see that there are a couple of players that is looking to replace him. So yeah, he basically requests a trade away. Now ideally, I would love to see Dotson to stay with this team, and that obviously he is a fan favorite. The trademark bangers only came from Hassani Dotson, but I also would not be surprised that they decide to trade him. And also, I don't blame Hassani Dotson of requesting this trade because when you're getting replaced by the players that this team is linked with, you're obviously not going to be just a bench warmer. I think he still could be a good starting quality player in MLS, but yeah, it just feels like there's going to be some teams that is looking to try to get him. I know Seattle is probably one team that Hassani Dotson wants to go to, considering he is from the Seattle area as well. It would be a great homecoming for him if the Sounders does pick him up. That is, though, I would not be appreciate if he does decided to go with that team. Considering you already know my opinion with the Seattle Sounders before as a Minnesota United fan. And then Tigres is actually in bid to sign LA Galaxy forward Dejan Joveljic. Now, this is definitely another example of Liga MX decided to really raid into some of these talented players coming out of MLS. And again, this MLS and Liga MX kind of partnership. Well, it's a great partnership. I am a little bit how do you say I'm kind of a little bit edgy when it comes to seeing all these potential good talent that MLS has, and they're basically sold off to Liga MX and help booster their team. And when it comes to when we get to the Leeds Cup or even in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, if you want MLS to still consider to be in the discussion of closing that gap or maybe even overtaking Liga MX, you can't simply just keep selling your best player to that league and feel their desire to keep themselves as the top dog in terms of the league status in the CONCACAF region. But that being said, we'll see whether or not if the offer is right. I think Tigres is going to offer a lot for Dejan Joveljic, though I know the Galaxy are not going to let him go that easily. Joveljic was amazing doing his time with the Galaxy. If it wasn't for the killer piece, he would have been right there in terms of being the best attacking player for this Galaxy team. And there's no doubt they're not going to be thinking any way to trade him away or transfer away, unless if Tigres is going to offer for a big amount of money. That is. Now, moving on in terms of talk about general news that is not transfer rumors and signings. So MLS Next Pro has released their schedule. It's going to be kicking off on March 7 as well. By the way, another news I didn't mention here: the USL Championship also have released the kickoff time for all of their games as well, which is great to see because well, it was great to see that the USL released the schedule as well. The lack of kickoff time always kind of makes me wish that I wish when they release the schedule they could have like the kickoff time and the date as well, so we know exactly what's the date and what time these game is kicking off. But for MLS Next Pro, of course, it's kicking off on March 7 as well, and I think people should try to attend some of these MLS Next Pro games. It's kind of unfortunate I didn't really attend last season, and it's kind of hard to attend some of these games as well, consider some of these teams are not actually playing in their MLS team stadium as well. We have seen some teams that play elsewhere as well. The Quakes is an example of that. They're actually now playing out of Moraga and playing out of St. Mary as well. But I'll try my effort in terms of maybe attending some Towns FC game this season as well, because yeah, MLS Next Pro, there's some good quality out there, and you get a chance to see some potential future star player from that league that could be names that you could see in the MLS level in the near future. And then speaking of MLS Next Pro 2, or yeah, MLS Next Pro that is, the Columbus Crew 2 has hired Federico Higuain as their new head coach. So yeah, this feels like it's a full circle moment for Federico Higuain. He's just such a legend with Columbus. I mean, if Columbus is thinking about building a statue in the near future, I'm pretty sure Federico Higuain is going to be right up there as well. So yeah, a very nostalgic kind of hiring, and a hiring that makes perfect sense. Bring a legend player to guide these youngster, and a chance to maybe even get a chance to play for the main team as well under Wilfred Nancy. And then T-Mobile customers, so there's some great news for them. They are going to be once again getting Apple TV free. So this was not the case last season as well, which is kind of odd because I thought they had that agreement with T-Mobile, but now it seems like it's back. If you're a T-Mobile customer, which unfortunately I am not, you will get Apple TV free again, and that's definitely a big bonus for all T-Mobile customers to not even have to worry about paying the $99 to do so. Which, by the way, speaking of the price, it's still the same price, and it also is the same price for existing Apple TV subscriber, where you get a $20 discount if you decide to buy it right now per year. Obviously, there's also monthly subscription, but I recommend if you want to like watch your team throughout the entire season, just get the yearly subscription. It's much cheaper to get the yearly subscription than the monthly subscription as well. But if you're a T-Mobile customer, or if you're a season ticket holder of your team, you don't even need to worry about that, because it comes in it comes complimentary this season as well. Now, speaking of MLS Season Pass, I have heard there's a rumor saying that they are going to be featuring Game of the Week on Sunday night, and they're going to actually kind of brand that as Sunday Night Soccer, so kind of a little bit of a dig on Sunday Night football as well. Obviously, they can't use Sunday Night Football because obviously NBC and the NFL would like to have a word with that as well, since they already have the exclusive rights and the trademark to that name. But Sunday Night Soccer is not a bad name either, and I like the fact that now the MLS Season Pass finally listened to the fans and put more games besides those Saturday time between 7:30 p.m. Eastern all the way to midnight 30 a.m. Eastern time. I always love to see when there's a game that is featuring the game of the week. That will definitely also drive in the viewership, and a great way for Apple TV to market these league in terms of marquee matchup as well. So I'm excited to see that is the case, and hopefully that might be something we might see even in other day as well. I feel like they could also do something on Saturday as well, especially maybe a marquee Saturday game as well. And then the most important thing, bring back Friday Night Soccer, bring back Venice the football that Univision now to the end used to had a couple of years ago, because that's also another thing that they could also do when it comes to really having some of these games more spread out than what we seen with that jumbo kind of games that's happening during the busy window of 7:30 p.m. Eastern all the way to midnight 30 a.m. Eastern time. And then there's also a report suggesting that some of these MLS games will actually have commentator that is going to be broadcast in a remote location rather than at the stadium. Now, they still said that most of these games is going to be broadcast in the stadium as well. But yeah, I don't really like the idea that we are starting to seeing Apple TV and MLS started to cutting costs in terms of not having some of their commentator travel to the venue to call the games, because I always like when commentator is able to commentate take games live in the venue rather than a remote location. I mean, you can clearly hear a big difference as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure some of those broadcasters try not to make it a big difference, but there definitely is, because when they're at the venue, not only they sound more energetic because they feed all the crowd that is, but you can definitely see their reaction time is definitely better when it comes to being in the venue, because they can actually see the action compared to looking at the TV screen, that is, as what we see with commentators broadcasting in remote locations. So yeah, I really hope that, with this, it maybe is just kind of a minor setback. They're gonna keep all the commentators being broadcast in the venue, and hopefully we don't get to a case where it could be something similar to what we see during the COVID time, where pretty much all the commentator were broadcasting from a remote location, because obviously you can't, for most part, a lot of these commentators, and especially those regional commentators, can't broadcast games from the venue because of COVID restriction during the COVID years in 2020 and even 2021. That is. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for this news of the week episode. Again, relatively long news of the week episode, but the good news is I did it under 40 minutes, which is considered to be good, and consider how many news I had to go over. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button. As always, if there's any news I didn't mention in these last couple of days, and I'm sure that I probably missed some news in these last couple of days, let me know in the comments below as well, and I'll try to get to it. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.